This video is really close to my heart because my grandmother, Presciliana Ortega, is in it. She's on it on the very beginning of the video, and she talks about what her life was like when she got betrothed to her husband. Then the video goes on, and it shows a young couple that get married in El Rito, New Mexico. I'm sure a lot of people know where El Rito is, right? And then it talks about the traditions and the music and the customs that were brought over in 1598 with the first expedition. So just sit back, relax, enjoy the video because it is very, very fun to listen to. Thank you. Go ahead, Ed. You can start the video now.
Okay.
Pues que los cuide mi Dios, Jesucristo los ampare, porque lo que Dios juntó, el hombre no lo separe. El casorio es delicado como un vaso de cristal, no más una vez se quiebra, ya no se puede juntar.
For the Hispanic people of northern New Mexico, the entrega was sung 3 times during an individual's life, at baptism, marriage, and death. The entrega de los novios is still a popular event at weddings.
When Hispanic colonists first came to New Mexico, beginning with the Oñate expedition in 1598, this land was the northern frontier of the Spanish colony of New Spain. Into the isolated river valleys and mountains they came, up from Mexico to Christianize the Indians and to settle the land. In the frontier society, marriage was one of the greatest symbols of unity. Weddings were highly regulated by church law and by the Spanish laws of the Indies that governed the New World. But here, weddings varied from place to place, shaped by the blending of cultures. I am Jose Romulo Martinez of El Rito. I believe my ancestors established themselves here in about 1700. They were shepherds and ranchers and maybe worked the land too. I am the grandfather of Cecilia Martinez, who will be married.
Another lovely custom that our people had in those old days was the custom of the arras. You know, in those days, the groom would present a little treasure box, probably made out of jewels or some precious metal. And inside that, they would place different kinds of coins of gold and silver, depending on how well off he was. And during the Mass, he would present them to his bride. And he would say, "With these I promise you my respect and my support the rest of my life." Then she would accept them and with her own words say, "I promise you mine in return." The custom of the arras came to us originally from North Africa, and it moved into Spain with the Moors, and then to the Americas with the Spaniards.
I remember that when I was young, when a man wanted to get married, he had to go off and herd sheep and work for maybe a year to earn enough When the young man had enough money, he came back and asked his father and his mother to ask for the woman he wanted to marry.
Entonces, convidaban como al padrino
Then they would invite the young man's padrinos, his godfather and godmother, to go along to request the girl's hand.
And there they would engage in a conversation with the bride's father and the menfolk from her family. And this would always concern itself with how good relations were between the families and things of that nature. And finally, as they were getting ready to leave, they would leave a letter, which would be the actual request.
I have here the letter from when one of my sisters, Amada Martinez, was asked for. And it says the following: El Rito, New Mexico, 1909.
Siendo por la alta y sabia providencia del Creador, mi humilde hijo, habiéndose inclinado a las bellas y finas cualidades que adornan a la ilustre señorita, hija de ustedes, me ha suplicado solicite la mano de vuestra hija para que sean unidos en los lazos indisolubles del sacramento del matrimonio.
Ella aceptó la solicitación de Abel Trujillo.
My name is Presciliana Ortega. I was born in the Cañón of Vallecitos. One day I was playing chueco, a ball game with the married girls, and my future husband was watching the game. The girls teased me. That boy is going to ask for you, they said. Well, I found this out through my girlfriends and not because I met him. I didn't know what to think, whether to get married or not. And then his family came, and after the people left, I was told that the boy had asked for my hand.
About a week later, the menfolk of the bride's family had had enough time to deliberate the answer and hopefully had consulted the bride. In any case, they would go back to visit the groom's family and deliver the answer. And again, they would talk about the good relations between the two families and how it would be of benefit or whatever. And then they would leave the answer. And if it was an affirmative answer, it would be a letter with the yes in it, the agreement. And then if it was to be a negative answer, a no, they would still leave a gift, but in this case it would be a calabaza or a pumpkin. In all these deliberations, the word yes or no was never spoken so as to preserve the dignity of everyone involved.
When we were planning on marrying, then they brought me the little trunk with the dowry. They brought me clothes, they brought me necklaces, rings, they brought combs, scissors, needles, everything one would need. The wedding dress, the stockings and white slippers. That's what they brought me.
Un día del prendorio tenían una fiestecita y luego los prendaron con un rosario.
The day of the prendorio, they had a little feast, and after, well, they joined us together with a rosary.
El novio me dio a mí el rosario que me.
The groom gave me the rosary with which we were betrothed.
El novio introducción a la gente mía.
They introduced the groom to my people, and they introduced me to his. I met them there for the first time that day. We went to get married in the church of El Rito, San Juan Nepomuceno. We were married on February 12, 1912. I was 15 years old.
When I first met William, we were in high school. We were dating for about 2 years when he gave me my promise ring. Well, I was very surprised when William asked me to marry him. I didn't give him an answer right away. I just told him he had to slow down and wait a while. And then a couple of days later, he asked me again, and I told him, well, I talked to my parents, but I'm still undecided. I don't know if I really want to yet or not. I want to finish my school, and I want to get a job, and I don't want to have children right away. I want to work for a while. All of a sudden, I knew we were just making plans. We just kind of, I guess I kind of just told him yes. I like a lot of respect from a guy, and William made me feel like he had that respect.
I was with my parents that night. We went to go ask for Cecilia's hand in marriage. Everybody seemed like they were nervous, and I didn't really know the procedure, but my dad, I guess he had heard other people say about how it was supposed to be, and he just outright and asked them, and they accepted right away. I would like just to be happy with my wife and any children and our families, to be in peace. Eventually, what I'd like to do is be a rancher. I love freedom. That's why I chose El Rito to live and stay in. I have the option to live in the city, but I wouldn't be happy there, and I know Cecilia wouldn't be happy there.
The Hispanic way of life prevalent here changed over time. The last major change came after World War II. The servicemen who had returned after having served in that war had seen a larger world beyond these walls and valleys of New Mexico, and the customs surrounding marriage and other life events were forgotten because they wanted to be so American now and to reject their past. Young people today are realizing that we can be American and still be Hispanic. They begin to be very proud of their language, their customs, their faith, and their culture. And now they're bringing back all those customs that were observed for so many centuries and then forgotten. Like, for example, the asking for the bride in the traditional way and the beautiful rituals of the wedding ceremony itself. They're beginning to find more and more meaning in all these things.
In the home chapels and churches, wedding celebrations created some of life's most poignant moments. Bride and groom would kneel at the altar, holding candles with their padrinos, the godparents, for the priest's blessing. Each rite of passage required padrinos, chosen from family and friends. The relationship with godparents, compadrasco, wove into the family and community a lifelong supportive network. Human relationships were based on spiritual ideals, exemplified by saints and holy persons. Each saint symbolized a human perfection. On rough-hewn boards, they painted the saints of their particular devotion. The bultos they carved from the cottonwood and aspen trees around here. For lives to be joined in marriage, Saint Joseph reigned as patron saint of the family. The Virgin Mary was the ideal of human purity, and the Holy Family the model for human families on earth.
Good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to the wedding of William and Cecilia today. On behalf of William and Cecilia, we'd like to really extend our gratitude for your being here this afternoon. En nombre del Padre, y del Hijo, y del Espíritu Santo. Amen. My dear friends, William and Cecilia, you have come together in this beautiful church of San Juan Nepomuceno, your parish church, so that the Lord may seal and strengthen your love in the presence of the church's minister, myself, and this community, your friends and relatives. William, do you take Cecilia to be your wife? Do you promise to be true to her in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health, to love her and honor her all the days of your life?
I do.
Cecilia, do you take William to be your husband? Do you promise to be true to him in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health, to love him and honor him all the days of your life?
I do.
William and Cecilia, you have declared your consent before God and His Holy Catholic Church. May the Lord fill you with every blessing. May you always remember that what God has joined here together today, man must never divide. Y ahora los padrinos del lazo van a poner sobre las cabezas. The ritual of the lasso came to us from Spain through Mexico. The bride's padrino would place the rosary over the heads of the bride and the groom as their engagement. It's also a good reminder that they can't walk away too far from each other without hurting each other, no? Also teníamos más antes una costumbre de las arras. We ask your blessing upon these arras, that they may be always a sign of the respect and physical support that this young couple will give to each other the rest of their lives.
Cecilia, I give these to you as a sign of my respect and support.
I will accept them and use them wisely.
We're going to be asking the parents and family of William and Cecilia to come and give them la bendición and give them their blessing, joined to that of the blessing of our Holy Church. From their baptismal candles, William and Cecilia will light the most important candle in the church, the Christ candle of Easter, as a symbol of new light and hope for all of us throughout their lives together. The Mass is ended. Let us go in peace. Thanks be to God. There's no such thing in a Hispanic village as a small wedding, or a small anything for that matter, because the whole village is related in one way or the other.
Cuando salían de la iglesia, pues se subían en los carros.
When they came out of the church, well, they got in their wagons and buggies and would go to the house of the bride.
Cuando ya iban llegando cerca.
It was the custom to fire shots, and the people would come out to meet them with musicians playing a violin and guitar.
The wedding celebration began with the marcha, a kind of triumphal march of this new family, introducing them to the assembled company.
If you want to dance, you'll have to dance with the bride or the groom, and it's going to cost you.
The Vals de los Novios is a time to express support and good wishes for the new couple.
Qué casualidad vernos encontrarnos hoy este día. Si ladies and gentlemen, the food is ready. So anybody that's hungry, you're welcome to get a bite to eat.
After the religious observance, then they would go to a sala, a large hall, in which they would continue the celebration that was begun already in the church. And there would be a feast, of course, of every possible food and delicacy that could be rustled up. And everybody was welcome. The whole village was welcome. And this was, of course, to mirror the celestial feast of heaven.
So anybody who'd like to join in the entrega is welcome.
No wedding was considered complete until the entrega was sung. The traditional verses, both humorous and serious, echo the wedding ceremony, instructing the couple and blessing their families, each member by name.
They say that in a wedding, the entrega is the most beautiful part. Today, I include in the blessing parents, relatives, and godparents. Bride, here today I give you over. At last the day has come for you. You look so alone, like the Virgin Mary. William, here today I give you over. I come to congratulate you. Now everything is finished for you. They've got you by the collar. To the parents of these newlyweds, here I come to give you praise. Today you give over your children that God will entrust you with. The godfathers and godmothers already know their obligation. Are already tired out their godchildren. You give them the blessing.
Human bonds are interwoven in song. As bride and groom are given to each other, as each family receives a new son or daughter, as padrinos, novios, and familias are joined together with new spiritual ties.
Y luego en la noche seguía el baile, valses redondos y two-step.
Later that night would be the dance. The waltzes, redondos, two-steps, charishes, and the varsoviana. The roots of Hispanic marriage go back to an early Christian age. The celebration has changed with time and place, yet continues to make order of the world and sustain the social harmony.
Wow, that was lovely.
It was interesting.
I have to say that Mexican weddings still include the arras. They do the rings, but they do include the arras. And the last wedding I went to, which was in December, the parents came up and gave the blessings to the bride and groom. So there's a lot of, I recognized a lot of, similarities with Mexican weddings that I've been to. The marcha is New Mexico, I think. I don't think I've ever seen that outside of a New Mexico wedding.
I probably agree. What it was interesting to me is that Barça Nova dance, and I'm hoping pronouncing it correctly, but that dance, I looked to see where the origins came from, and the dance is done several different ways. They still do it in Albuquerque. They have a school that teaches it. And I remember my mom and dad dancing to that all the time. It was very, very beautiful. But it also comes from Bosnia. So we have a lot of cultures and a lot of music, a lot of dances that have been brought over, and the tradition is stuck. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that was really interesting. I was kind of wondering if we might, I guess the film was done in 1986, is that?
Yes, my grandmother passed away in 1991, I believe.
Okay.
And so, yeah, she was the first lady in the green dress, and that bracelet that you saw on her, I gave her that one year for her birthday years and years ago.
Well, I thought she was really cute.
She's adorable. She was. Thank you.
Anybody have any comments?
Let me just add something. Yeah, if I could add something. Sounds
Sure.
very, very interesting that the individual who at the beginning of the video is Cipriano Vigil, and he is the one that I've asked to present to our group. And I haven't heard back from him. And so he is the one that provided me with a lot of information about New Mexico music in my book. And what's also cool is that so much of what I just saw validated so much of what I wrote in my book, because I don't remember because I wasn't there, but my brothers also told me about that ritual, about writing the letter, about taking the family over to go ask for the bride's hand at the bride's parents' house. So it was very heartwarming to see that it really just validated so much of what I had written. And on top of that, the narrator is another individual that I've invited to speak to us, Enrique La Madrid. And he's the one that I mentioned, and he's agreed to do it at the March meeting, that he is the one that will do the New Mexicans in the Civil War, which is a fascinating presentation. And so he's agreed to do that. So it was very heartwarming. I really enjoyed that video. I hope we have a chance to share it. And I might add that I'm in Albuquerque right now, and I'm heading up to Española to attend I got a special invitation to attend the New Mexico Music Awards tonight up there. So that's what I'm doing here.
Wonderful.
So I will hope to bring back video and pictures from those awards ceremony. They're held at the OK Casino in Española. So I'll let you know how that goes. That should be very interesting. But anyway, it was a great video, and I hope I have a chance to get a copy to share that with other people.
Yeah, it was. In fact, it was. I have a cousin who when he was getting married, my parents went with his mother to talk to the girl's family, and but that, I mean, they had a smaller wedding, but it was reminiscent of that. And his father is a New Mexico, from New Mexico, well, Colorado, New Mexico. And her also on the bride's side, her father also has the New Mexico ties. So they're mixed. They have one parent from Mexico and the other from New Mexico. But yes, but some of those traditions, though, the idea of asking, for the bride and that kind of thing, the parents going over there, no letter, that I'd never heard of before, but that was really wonderful. Anybody else have any comments?
I have a comment, if I can. It reminded me of my own wedding. I got married in '69, and a lot of whatever it's there. My wedding was in Mexico City, but very similar tradition, regardless of where you were, if it's New Mexico or Mexico, it has lasted for a long time, and that's kind of my comment. My point is that I do not know how it can be taught to young people nowadays, because I think that we become we lose our identity because it's so overwhelming, the United States culture and the life that is so fast-paced now, so technology and so forth, and that I do not know how it can be reminded that this is a beautiful tradition and one that it shows identity. That's my comment.
Thank you, Lourdes. It was interesting to hear that the Aras come from Africa, because I was talking to my my Spanish friend, and she didn't know what that was. So, and I thought that was interesting. Anything else? Anybody?
I just wanted to add one thing. We live in Olathe, Kansas, and well, we've lived in Wichita in Kansas for
since 1976.
Yes, since 1976. And there's in this area, the Kansas City area, there's a large East Indian population. And they are so Americanized. In fact, my ophthalmologist is East Indian, just a young 35-year-old ophthalmologist who just performed cataract surgery on me 2 days ago.
Oh, wow.
She's East Indian, proud of her heritage, and had, along with a church ceremony, a Christian church ceremony, also had an Indian ceremony. My girlfriend, who was the gifted teacher in the building where I taught, her daughter is marrying an East Indian in June. They are also going to have an East Indian ceremony. I just wish that we as parents had done more of, added more of those cultural traditions when our daughters got married. Even if it was just the adia and the rosary, the lasso, but we didn't. And so I think the problem lies mainly in the parents. But of course, we didn't do that either in ours. So I just wish I don't know. It saddens me. It saddens me when I see that tradition is gone. I don't know. Are we not proud? I am, and I don't understand, because I am so proud of where I'm from, and my children are proud of where I'm from, but we've just lost it. We have lost it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might add, and I'm really proud, because a lot of my great nephews, though they don't understand some of the traditions, they will still at their wedding insist on the wedding march. And they don't know quite what it's about, but they grew up with it. They've been with at weddings, and no matter who they're marrying, no matter what it is, almost all my nephews and nieces and great nephews and nieces have insisted on having the wedding march performed at their wedding. So if nothing else, that's one tradition that seems to have carried on and carried forward.
And that's the only tradition that we carried forward at our daughter's weddings also, Manuel, the marcha. Yeah, that's it.
I think like the entrega is really beautiful, what they say. But when they sing it at the wedding ceremonies, it's in Spanish. And I think a lot of people become disinterested. I mean, the younger people, and I kept myself, because they sing it in Spanish and I really don't know what they're saying. But if someone tells me what it is, it's very beautiful. And I think a lot of kids, when they've gone to the wedding, they kind of got disinterested because they don't
Yeah.
understand it. They don't know Spanish.
Mute.
I think sometimes that's kind of how we've lost that tradition a little bit, you know.
And that's another sad thing, is that we've lost our language. And when the language goes, so do the traditions. That's
Okay,
a
thanks.
bad thing.
Ya me diste pena.
What?
I can make you that.
I just wanted to taste it.
You know, I think a lot of it too is the fact that many of us have married non-Hispanic. And so we're actually breaking tradition just by doing that. And you're going into a new tradition. But I can remember at Our Lady of Guadalupe, where I was an altar boy for years, that they would have the Spanish or Mexican type of weddings where they'd have the lasso around them and all that. And I didn't realize at the time that that was different. But that was done in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, and I agree that I know my family, you know, my cousins, because I don't have siblings, but we're all so intermixed now. You know, I'm not married to an Hispanic. Most of my female cousins are not. And so the language isn't there. And, you know, there's a wedding going on in my family this weekend in Georgia. And not even in the church. So, you know, I mean, my whole family's Catholic, but that's being lost too. So
just one more piece to that. Again, I find it very interesting because, you know, I have several nieces and nephews and that have married non-Latinos. And what's interesting is the non-Latinos have also picked up the tradition. And now at weddings, sometimes often the spouse who is non-Latino and is married to, let's say, one of my nieces, it will be a mixed group or a mixed couple that will lead the march, and one of them, and they know it almost as well as we do. And I think that's what's been really cool, that many of in our family who are non-Latino have picked up that tradition. So I think that, again, it's a question of us educating, perpetuating, teaching, and having that, because every time, or not every time, but often when we've had the wedding marches and the other ceremonies, the non-Latinos, they're just blown away by it, and they want to, how do we do this? I want this.
I can't hear a thing. I see Manuel Romero talking, but I can't hear
Gilbert, read my lips.
Right, unmuted again.
Anyway, so I thought that's an interesting aspect of this, that non-Latinos who have married into our family, and it's not just our family, a lot of all have picked up many of our traditions and want them included when they get married.
You're on mute still. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I was gonna make a comment. We got married in Midvale, and we had I think we touched on most of these traditions when we got married. That was in 1978, and they weren't as pure as the traditions in the video were, but they were pretty much there. And in fact, there's a lot of members here that were at my wedding back in those days. So it's really I still think we have it, but even in my family, I have a wedding coming up with Zachary's getting married pretty soon in June, but we've kind of let him do what they want to do, and it's not going to be the same as we had it, but I think our traditions are still right on the money. We have some great things, and we haven't lost it all. We know how to do it, so let's do it. Let's make a point of saying, hey, you know, we insist on doing some of these things. And I'll do that with my son now that I've seen this film now, you know, I'm thinking, yeah, you know, we're not chopped liver at all. We're pretty good. You know, we got the best of the best, I think. And even we have a lot of intermarriage in our families, non-Hispanic and stuff like that. And but I still think we're on top. We're the best there is out there. I really do. And we don't have to step back to anyone and their traditions. We have the best traditions too. Anyway, but it's nice to see everybody again.
Well, I guess we should, well, I don't know, we still have time, I guess, but anybody have any other comments about the film or questions?
I do have a comment, and I am going to concur with what was just said, and this is really my comment. You know, what do we eat here in Utah? Tacos, tortillas, tamales, tequila. I mean, the United States doesn't have a real tradition per se, and they love our tradition. And we should be more proud and more willing to I do not know how. I mean, I cannot do it by myself, but I think that that it is obvious that they are searching for something, and we have it, so don't lose it. That's my point.